Hello, everyone. Welcome to our stream, end of the month stream. We didn't even realize that this was the last Saturday of this
I
month.
know the end of the month got here so
It
fast, didn't it?
it really
hmm
did. So, welcome to everybody who's been coming to our streams, and for anybody new, my name is Susan, and my co-host Philip is down underneath, I think, and we have a guest tonight, Jan Damon, over here. So, welcome, you guys. We have a really interesting talk tonight. I think you guys are really going to like it. First, I just want to say hi to everybody out there, and I can see we already have one of our mods. Elise is in here. Thank you so much for coming. A lot of great people. Hi, everyone. I still have technical difficulties with YouTube, so I can't actually type. I can see the comments, but in the chat, but I can't actually type anything in there.
And by
So
the way, since it's the end of the month, we're also having our members only stream after this one, so you guys can stick around for that.
yeah, we are. I have not posted the link yet, but I will do that at the end of today, and then in just a few minutes later, we will pop into that. So it's probably going to be a continuation of what we're talking about tonight, because if you've been following us, and you already know that this whole channel is devoted to Neogenian material. It's a Neogenian community. So if everybody comes over from Morg Official's channel, where they focus on a lot of Gnosticism and esoteric topics, but don't really have the opportunity to dive into a lot of the Neogenian material in detail. Of course, you can always get the books through Morg. Hi, Morg. Morg just put through a super chat. Thank you so much. But we on this channel really try to be a community for people who are interested in the Neogenian system. So welcome. And if you've been following us, you know that if you've been following along, we have been through live streams, I think a couple of live streams on the first book, which was Neogenesis, and the second book, which was Metarationalism. And then we just did a couple of live streams on Cosmogenesis with a few breaks to do fun stuff in October. So
Yeah, and
really,
we're definitely going to get back to each of those topics too. We're not just moving on from each of them. We'll go back and do other videos.
oh yeah, we have not completed or exhausted all of the material on any of those books. There's a wealth of material and content in there, but we're moving on today to Teleocracy, and this is the book. It's the fourth book in the series. The link is below. And it just seemed really appropriate to start talking about it. We wanted to say first, and we will get into what is teleocracy. We'll have a discussion about it in a few minutes, but it is the next stage following the first three. And I had been talking to Jan, I think it was yesterday or the day before, and I said, teleocracy, I like it. I like all the books, but it's probably the least exciting material for me personally. Anybody who knows me knows that I'm just always saying how much I like the foundational material. And Jan said, you said right back to me, oh, this is the one I was looking forward to the most. Do you want to just have an opportunity right now to this is why you're here. This is when I said Jan should come in.
Yeah.
Tell us what you like.
With the Neogenian system, I think we're in our very early stages. And in these early stages, it is primarily focused at the moment on the sort of inner experience. First, the fundamental understanding of like what reality is, and then how you fit into that. So when you get into the teleocracy stuff, to me, it's less internal, what's going on inside with your internal experience, and more external, what everybody is doing as a collective. And sociology in general is an interest of mine. It's what I'm going to school for. And I think sociology is a huge part and aspect of teleocracy, whereas like things like philosophy and psychology is more for like the internal process and things like that. So this is an area that I'm most passionate about, and this is my life's pursuits. I'm very interested in what we do as a collective.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we are all very interested to see what, I know I am, to see what you're going to do when you finish with school. Like, what do you know already what area you want to be in, what interests you the most, or are you just waiting to go through a bit more of it and decide where your passion is?
I think a lot of my interest and field of interest right now is in systems of power and how society reacts to that in general. This sort of dynamic between what is in power and the groups and the people and the demographics that are not, and how those that are not in power form sort of resistance systems, groups, movements, and things like that, and how there's the dialectical change
Right.
between that and what ends up as a result from that.
Yeah, I was going to say that's the dialectical process. So interesting. That's wonderful. And I think there's a lot of work to be done in this area. So that's awesome.
Which is another part of why it's my favorite is, as I said, is because Neogenian is still in its early phases. This is an area of work that has yet to been done, and is where the call to action is for people to come together and start bringing what they've learned internally from the understanding the fundamentals of reality and stuff, and how we're going to come together as a group and actually create a better world.
Yeah, and I know that is a focus for a lot of people who are chomping at the bit, because they want this system in place. They see the value of it. They see the frustration of what we have had and can currently have, and people want to do something. They want to implement it, and we are going to be talking about that in a little bit.
And Teleocracy is exciting because it gives you a sense of what we can achieve as a society if we manage to elevate consciousness enough to move us in that direction and work for those things.
Yeah, I mean, certainly the first 4 books in the series really instill in you this, like what we are, what we're doing here, and what you immediately see where the problems are and what we could have. And then it's very frustrating when you realize we could have it. It could be so much better, but there's this huge wall in between the people who know this and actually making it happen. And that is because people are they haven't been through the Neogenesis process of looking at what they believe and why they believe it, and then going through the deconstruction phase. So first, I just want to stop and say hi, because things have been happening in the chat. And then we'll kind of move on to what is Teleocracy. And
I was going to say, I saw Save Yourself gifted 5 Neogenian Oculus memberships, so thank you for that.
Nice.
And also earlier I saw Angela posted that they have been a member for 10 months at the wavelet level, so thank you for supporting the channel.
Thank
you.
And
also Laura has been a member for 31 months and says 31 months of happy learning from great people. Thank you, Laura.
That's if you have the ability to put through one of those, please do, because we love seeing them. Hi, I was going to say individual highs. Thank you so much, Pooks, by the way, and Angelica, and hi, Lee. It's so good to see you guys. And Ren and Zeus and Joanna and Bridget. Oh, hi, Andy is out there, and Spectral. Hi, I don't know if John. Hi, Eric. I don't know if John is
all
in
the
here.
OGs.
Yeah, and thank you again, Savior. I just get such a kick when people gift memberships, because it's, like I said last time, it's just such a win-win. It helps us out, but it also allows people to come to our members live streams, of which we're having right after
this.
Which
most of the time they're pretty casual, but we're still happy to have you guys there.
Yeah, we often just have a good members chat, but sometimes we have people come on, people who've been in the community for a while. Hi, Nanu, and I saw some. Hi, Ryan. So Ryan just said people are too attached to their current flawed ways, and I think a lot of it is that people cling to what makes them comfortable. They don't like to challenge. They don't like having their beliefs challenged. But I think a lot of it is just also ignorance, that there are people who are kind of searching. They're dissatisfied in some way with where they are. I'm not talking about people who are so staunchly embedded in a very, almost cult-like religion or something. Those people are harder to free. But as soon as you really if you have the ability to question and you start to go through that process, those people, if they come across our material, have a chance to have it get through. And then the walls start to crumble, and they start to look at, it's almost like people need permission. They need something that tells them, if you've been having these thoughts that what you believe doesn't make sense, it's almost like you're getting permission now. Somebody is not only saying it's okay to do it, but encouraging you to think rationally. And
it's not impossible, because I've done it. A lot of you guys have done it. It's definitely something that can be achieved.
Yeah. And there are people who leave, like religions or, other forms, other systems that they were firmly entrenched in. But you have to have that thing where, within you, where some part of you recognizes that something doesn't feel right.
Part of the difficulty with that is because it's the traditional mindset, and that's the way it's always been, kind of mindset. Yeah.
But there are people who are just, they like what they have. It makes them so comfortable. They will fight tooth and nail when somebody comes in with logic or reasons for what they believe to be incorrect. But there are others who can be really entrenched in it, and yet they have something within them that allows them to question, and maybe they just don't talk about it. Those people can be reached. So
also, thank you to Joanna for being a member for 37 months. And glad to see you are back. The 3 Gs. What is G's? Does that mean we're the 3 gangsters, or what's G's?
Probably.
Yeah. It's been a while since just the 3 of us have been on. And I just wanted to say also thank you to Daphne for the super chat. Really appreciate it. And hi to all the other new people that just came in. So in the meantime, thank you so much, Macro. My hair, I'm going gray, and I'm trying to do it as fast as possible. But I'm working on it. It's a work in progress. So I think we need to get into the discussion of what teleocracy is, and
kind of define our terms.
Yeah, and again, I can't recommend the books enough, because there is no way that we are even, doing more than just scratching the surface. In the future, we'll probably take sections and focus on those things. Okay. So, but for the moment, let's just get into like the broad thing. So teleocracy is the natural progression of what comes next after you go through the first 3. It follows very naturally from what you have learned if you read it in order. Now, I noticed earlier that somebody, I think it was Angelica, said, I'm thinking of skipping and going to the last book, which is perfectly fine. You don't have to read the books in order, just because that's sort of a natural flow of providing the information. If you get it out of order, it's not going to disturb anything. In fact, the second book, Metarationalism, is so complex. It's very heavy. And if you don't think that you can move on and you're stuck, you'll get stuck there. And you don't want to spend, 2 years trying to figure out Metarationalism and really, really grok it before you move on. So it's not
the concepts are interconnected and related to each other, but each of the books can be taken as a standalone book. You can just read. I mean, you should read all of them. It's good to have the information, but if there's one that really interests you, it's fine to focus on that.
Absolutely. And in fact, what I'm going to do now, and I apologize to Philip and Jan, because I'm going to give a brief description of what the first three are, so that you will definitely, thank you, Lee, you'll definitely see how teleocracy automatically just comes next in the way Morg laid this out, which was in a way, because they had to write the books in some sort of linear fashion, and this is the one that makes the most sense, but again, doesn't have to be the way you go through this material. So the first one, as I said earlier, Neogenesis, that's a very good start, because in order to get into a new paradigm, which is what this is,
you have to deconstruct.
You do. You really need to have your beliefs confronted. You need to get your mind open enough away from everything you've been fixated on, enough so that you can then get into the material, which in the way that Moore did it, the next one is actually explaining reality. So if you're not prepared for it, and somebody just hops in and starts saying, well, each one of us is a collection of frequencies, and you have had no preparation for that, and you're coming from a religious background or like an atheist background, you are going to be so entrenched hanging on to the way you view the world that you're going to fight along the way. You're going to have arguments with every step. Whereas if you go through Neogenesis, those things are addressed. All of the ways we view things, like accepting scientific materialism, for example, and religion, you need to sort of go through that process. That's what Neogenesis does. And when you finish that book, you've gotten to the place where you recognize that the foundational aspect of the reality is reason. You know that without reason, nothing is going to work. That's where you end that book. When you start Metarationalism, the next book, which logically follows, now that you're there, you kind of
already have that foundation.
You have the foundation, and you want to take that. Okay, well, now I understand the importance, the necessity, how essential reason is. That reason must exist. Now I want to know how do we get everything that we experience and what we are, and how does all of that come to be if we just start with reason and nothing else. Now, nothing is not non-existence. That's explained. We've been through that. But reason and nothing, how do we explain all of this without calling on a god or just this random Big Bang that happened for no reason? Well, that's what Metarationalism does. And it takes you all the way through understanding the foundation mechanisms for reality. Again,
and that's what we've been reading currently in the Nexus Academy.
I was gonna bring that up because I don't think we mentioned this enough. We are actually teaching that, going through the books. We've done the Neogenesis as a group, and these are free classes in Morg's Discord. If you are a member at the Discord level of either Patreon or Morg's YouTube channel.
I think it's tier 2 or higher on YouTube.
I think it is as well. That gets you into Discord. These classes are free to anybody who's in who has access to, and Lee's just said that Nexus Academy is great. And what we're doing is we're just going through all the books. We're reading them. We alternate between somebody leading the class. They're on Sundays at 7 p.m. And tomorrow night, Philip is in charge. And Mark, one of our moderators, who I don't think is in here right now, but he alternates in as well. And when we finish Metarationalism, which I think are we sort of halfway through? I'm not really sure.
About halfway.
Halfway. Then we will start Cosmogenesis, and then we'll keep going. And I don't know if we'll start again after that and just keep rotating, or whether we'll do something different. But keep that in mind, that if you want to join in on that and really go through the books with a group of people, and it's fun. So that's really good. So I just finished explaining Metarationalism, which comes after Neogenesis. And then once you know the mechanism for reality, you've deconstructed, you're open to getting this information, you get a basic understanding of how reality operates, the mathematical nature of reality. Then now you want to know, well, then how does the cosmos unfold and evolve? How do these things come together? How do we end up even, having bodies? Hi, Mark. Mark did get in here. It's good to see you. So that's what Cosmogenesis is. That's the third book. And we just finished, as I said earlier, a couple live streams about that. Still lots more to go. But after you've covered sort of the whole cosmos, now in Teleocracy, you want to hone in on our planet, a planet, obviously our planet, because that's where we are. So what Teleocracy is about is how do we construct the world given all of the information and knowledge we've gotten from before in the first three. And then the final book, we're getting smaller and smaller. We've done the universe, then the planet, the society, and then we're going to talk about individual. That's Psychogenesis, the final book. I'm really looking forward to that one.
Yeah, I'm excited about that.
Yeah. I mean, like, sort of this Teleocracy isn't, I wouldn't call it exactly the politics book. It contains that. It's more than that. But unlike Jan, that's not my favorite stuff. I think the individual work in Psychogenesis will be something I really like.
Yeah, I think so too. And I'm kind of with you, Susan, because I also like the foundational concepts of reality. I think you've called it before the bits and pieces of how everything works. But I also really like the core concepts in Psychogenesis with working on oneself, because in turn, that does benefit the collective, which having that understanding can help us with Teleocracy. So each of those things kind of serves one another.
Yeah, and go ahead.
I was just going to share my thought. I think it comes full circle. When you start on a Neogenian journey, the first part, I think, the realization is the external part, is what society is currently and how it's shaping you, how you're supposed to carry out societal expectations. And then, so it kind of starts with that. And then immediately it's like, well, you need to start examining that and break it down. And that's where it becomes like the individual experience, and you deal with the psychological aspects and stuff, the figuring out of like who you are without all those corrupt societal expectations that we have currently. So it's almost like recognize what society is right now, how it's shaping you, figure out how to understand and know thyself without all of that. And then if we all did that, then we can go back and reshape society into what it's meant to be, where we tell society what it's meant to be rather than society telling us what we need to be. So I think it kind of comes like full circle. So
yeah, that I think you've really hit the nail on the head with that. That because as you were talking, I was envisioning what you were talking about, and I don't want to jump the gun, but and I know we're going to talk more about society that we have now, which is so geared toward not enabling individuals to reach any kind of, self-actualization. If you're not rich and white and come from, some super background, it's really stacked against you. And
there's too many people that have a love of power instead of love of purpose.
Yeah. So that what society is about, it seems, if you ask someone what is life about, what do we do, it's that stereotypical, you're born, you go to school, you get a job, you get married, possibly have kids, you retire, maybe you get some, if you're lucky, some vacation time or like time to travel or whatever, and then you die. And that's it. That's what they think existence is. And those are probably for the lucky people.
And not to interrupt, that's also what I think they think individuality is. I think there's a big difference between like what we mean as an individual and as a Neogenian, and what like society currently, like how we understand what an individual is, where it's like, oh, you're part of the system, but you have consumer choice and all that stuff. Or in Neogenian teachings, where like an individual is more pulling it back to that fundamental understanding of what we are as zetas.
Yeah.
Like that kind of individual, like a cosmic individual, rather than just like the individual that you play in society.
Yeah. And, the way society right now, I think is just the word that I would use is struggle. It just entails.
That's very kind. I would have used something much worse.
Well, it entails so much struggle, and I mean, I am fortunate. I know, I recognize that, but I think for a lot of the majority of people, it's life involves just this struggle to survive. It's not this. There can be, obviously there's good moments in there for a lot of people too, but on the whole, it's just this, you have to prove your worth. You have to earn your, even the language that we use, you have to earn your living.
Not everybody is dealt with a good hand of cards, and not everybody's has a full deck, playing with a full deck,
Yeah, that's true. And the resources for taking care of people are very sparse. So I think before we get ahead of the game, let's just talk about what now that I've sort of given the first three, like what led up to here, and before I forget, where do we get teleocracy from? Where does that come from? Morg has mentioned it, but I'll say it again. Telos means purpose. So teleocracy is a purpose-driven society, and the goal is a community goal for everybody, united goal for everybody to focus on maximizing quality of life. In the simplest terms, that's what we're working to do,
and not just for the select few.
Not just for the select few, and you would never.
We can see that society is like ultimately broken the way it is right now.
Right.
And so, since we're looking forward into the future, and we have these ideas of what we would like to see, that's what teleocracy is, where we would have a society that maximizes the quality of life, not just for a group like, rich white men, but for everybody.
Yes.
Yeah, I think the key in teleocracy is that we're trying to build a world in a future where everybody's thriving rather than just like simply surviving.
Yeah. And I think if you asked, if you're on the street asking people what the purpose of society is or life in society, I don't think that they would say that.
It's going to be based on whatever they were brought up to believe, honestly. And I think that's where the important deconstruction part is, and which is a key element of teleocracy. It's not just like a new political system. It's heavily rooted in that fundamental understanding of what reality is and who you are as a Zeta.
Yeah. And also I think it's important to mention that we realize that the cards are kind of stacked against us in a way, and we understand that this isn't going to be enacted next year or in 5 years, but we have a conceptual idea of what we would like the perfected society to be, where it benefits everybody.
Well, the Neogenian system has always said, like, we're here to evolve, like, with the system is here to evolve with us. We're in the beginning stages, the early stages of our movement, and we're just getting to this point where we'll be able to conceptualize and put motion. So there's a lot of work to be done there, and I think this is an exciting call to action sort of type of thing.
Oh, absolutely. And I saw, before it goes up too high, Heretical said I was going to pull up my bootstraps, but my laces were prefab cheap polyester and they snapped. And, I was telling Philip, I think yesterday, that a lot of people would argue that the goal of society should be to maximize everyone's potential and make sure that everybody has a high quality of life. I think that there's an inherent dislike of the idea of giving something to everyone, especially people who these people don't think deserve it because they don't see them as doing anything. And it's that, like, really calling out the idea of the other. There's that distaste for, well, I work hard, I do stuff, I pulled myself up by my bootstraps, and I think everybody has to do that. And if they don't, there's something wrong with them. They're not doing what they should. But when you have a lot of people who not only don't have bootstraps, but they don't have boots, they don't have boots. How are they going to do that?
I was presented the choice of buying a $120 pair of work boots or buying groceries.
Yeah, right. but it's not even just that. It's not just a matter of money. It's a matter of how you're born into this society. And if you are not white, and especially, in addition to that, if you're not a white male, you're not given the absolute basics that comes with that, and the inherent issues, racism being a major one, means that a lot of people are coming into this with no boots, and women have their own issues. Yeah, Lisa, I was just going to say, some people didn't even have boots to pull up. And if that's not addressed, you can't just say, well, these people need to work harder. There's something wrong with them. They're lazy or whatever. When there's no thought, no recognition given to the fact that because of the systemic issues in society, people do not have a chance. And, Lee said, if you're not born a white straight male, you are literally spending the rest of your life proving you're a real person that deserves rights. Yeah. Yeah. Laura heard my mom sneeze. Oh my God.
I heard that too. Yeah.
Yep. It's my mom. Anyway. Okay. So telos means purpose. Now, so what is teleocracy exactly? If you haven't looked at the book, it's not a matter of just swooshing things together, components that we
just
like.
Really quick, can you guys put "I have" in the chat if you've read the book? I'm just interested to see.
Oh, me too. Good. Yeah.
Are just to see how many people are familiar with teleocracy. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I was just thinking.
No, I'm reading comments.
Yeah.
So yeah, disabilities, Bridget. Yeah, there's. Oh, Lee said familiar as fuck. Spiral hasn't. Hi, Spiral. Zeus says it's you haven't started, but I think I saw that you left a comment saying that you're very excited to read Teleocracy, but you haven't read it yet. Joanna read it. Laura's hasn't finished it yet. It's
perused it. I love that word.
Yeah.
Perused.
Do you know what perused means? What does it mean?
Enlighten me.
Are you telling us or are you asking?
No, I'm asking what does it mean?
I mean, I don't know the exact definition, but to me it's like, I don't know, just kind of nonchalantly sort of viewing.
Yeah. Like leafing through a magazine.
Just kind of leafing
through. Do you know?
Yes.
I only just found this out. That's absolutely it's absolutely opposite. It means to really read something thoroughly. And
shit.
I know. I've always said, I'm just perusing this book. Yeah, completely wrong. I only just found that out. So hey, we learn things. We're learning things. So now when I say I think people use it incorrectly a lot. But yeah,
Poop says no. I haven't bought it yet. Another good idea, don't forget that Morg has a website with pages that outlines the core concepts of each of these, like teleocracy and neogenesis and all that. And also Morg has another YouTube channel called the Neogenian with informational videos about each of these. I think they put out a couple on teleocracy. And eventually you will see Susan and I put out some videos on that. So there is information other places as well.
And if you have a Kindle reader, you can get it for $10, I think. You know, not get, because I have that on I have all the books on my Kindle too. How high is it? It's Outlier, but Ausreiser, did I pronounce that right? Ausreiser. Nice to see you, and you're still reading it. Okay, so here, whoops, let me get down to the bottom of these comments. Okay, so we need to scoot along here a bit. Where were we? This system takes aspects, components of other systems, like you know, people tend to think, if you look at capitalism, for example, you know, it has, we like capitalism because without it, people don't have motivation. Capitalism is fabulous for motivating people to produce something, invent something, create something, bring something in, because everybody wants to get a lot of money. And the way it's set up, there's no limit to the amount of money you can get. And that's, you know, we could get into a whole thing about how you could invent something, but somebody can come along and, you know, basically sort of, somebody with money can sort of steal the idea and then they end up getting the money for it. I'm not going to go into all of that competition.
Just kind of generally.
Just in general. In general, capitalism provides a lot of incentive because people know that they could become very wealthy if they come out with something. So you want to work and you get rewarded. The problem with that is that it inherently comes with poverty, because there are going to be people who don't make it in that system.
So that have the same footing or the same bootstraps or boots,
for a lot of the reasons that we mentioned earlier. So then you come along something like, people think of communism, but that's never actually been implemented completely. But like socialism, we have a lot of socialist aspects, some socialist aspects to our own government. We don't have the healthcare, but what the issue people have, besides incorrect views, just because they've been taught to be scared of the word and they just run away screaming. Forget that part, but just think about, the concern that it is going to squash individualism and the fear of taking away that motivation to do something on your own. It's very, very collective oriented. So
do you think it would be a fair characterization to say that teleocracy is a hybrid system?
I think it's in a way, but it's a, I think, as Jan said
more
earlier,
of a dialectical emergence, I think, is what it would be.
It's a natural evolution, dialectical evolution.
Because I think what I like about the Teleocracy book is, first of all, Morg mentions point blank that the book could be several volumes long if they got into the details of it. So when they go through things like capitalism, communism, socialism, and stuff like that, Morg even says, like, what they're saying doesn't really do those systems justice, because there's so many different versions of capitalism. There's different versions of socialism. There's even different versions of communism. So it's almost easier in Teleocracy, what Morg did, it's easier to say, like, these are the biggest points that we don't align with. So if there's an aspect of socialism where you're getting rid of the individual, we don't align with that. We're not saying, like, we don't align with any of it at all. There's definitely aspects of it, but the book tends, to me, primarily focus on the things like, no, we're not going to do that, because it's easier to say that instead of go on and describe meticulously all the parts that we do align with.
excuse me. Yes. Well, so I think to answer your question, Philip, it's not just grabbing things that in a way,
putting a giant Lego piece together.
Yeah, I mean, in a way, it comes across that way, but I think the progression to get there is more of a evolution, through the dialectical process. But and the book, you should know, gives an overview of different areas that should be considered. If you're looking for a book that is going to give you the absolute minutiae detail, or even, just major details. Yes, on we're gonna have these executive orders, we're gonna have these laws, that's not in there.
We're nowhere near, and like I said several times, we're in the early phases of the Neogenian system. We'd be selling you something if we said we had a perfect political policy laid out. Like we're figuring this out, especially with the current circumstances and the current administration we have. Things are changing really fast.
Yeah,
and we're set to evolve with what's ever going on. So we can't come in here right now and be like, this is this, that's that, we got to do this way. When it comes to particular things like political policy and executive orders and stuff like that.
Yeah. Besides, as I was saying the other night when we were talking, that if Mark had spent the time, or there was a group of people who were experts at creating societies and they sat down and actually went through all of those components and then subcomponents and built all of it and said, here, we have the system ready to plop in. By the time that we get to that, where we want to, where society, humans are at the point of their consciousness evolution, where we can implement these things, a lot of what's in those manuals that people would have spent a long time making will be obsolete by then. Because we could, I think the example I gave had something to do with a library or a building of some sort, like any kind of public building where things happen. So take a library. If you start designing those spaces now, and then 8 months from now, that technology comes out that makes doing that obsolete, because we're all wearing glasses where we get that kind of information through our eyewear, all of that time creating that, doing those details would be wasted. And I think one of the really important points, and it's frustrating, I know, for a lot of people who really want to implement the teleocracy and the Neogenian vision, tomorrow, and we all want that.
I want it now.
We want it now, and we do. And but
I'll admit it.
The thing is that it's so unrealistic to think that we can want it and work toward it, but it's so unrealistic to think that overnight or even in a year we can put that in. And Zeus just said, without the right.
It's not going to happen until we manage to elevate consciousness of society. We have to work towards that in order to implement teleocracy down the line.
Even if we had the manuals to install this, and we had people who were interested in doing it, if the consciousness isn't raised on the people who are doing that, it's doomed. It is who just said that? Doomed to failure. Zeus. And the reason is because if you are in the previous paradigm mindset and all of those belief systems about understanding reality, and you try to implement this, where that as we understand, coming from our understanding of reality, it can't be done. It's doomed to the same faults that the current belief systems are going to impose on it.
And also, for us to be able to change things, we also have to spread awareness of things that are going wrong, which if any of you have looked at the news anytime in the last however long, you can see there's many things in the world that are going wrong.
Oh, is
and
there?
so for us So for us to be able to fix those things, we have to spread awareness of those things and discuss with each other how we're going to move forward and what changes we want to see made in the world. You know, we've seen attacks on
Gathering and grouping
equality,
together.
attacks on gender, attacks on, reproductive rights. The laundry list is long and growing.
Um, this was something that I wanted to make sure that I didn't come in here and just rant, because that would have been really easy. I think, and I think we do want to maintain our focus the on the content, the material that we want to get out there, so that we can create this world. You also cannot be a turtle and just pull your head into your shell, which is what I think a lot of us would like to do. I do that on a daily basis, trying to hide.
It's okay to have those moments. Just for those, it's okay to have the turtle moments. All right.
And I think maybe
have one on me.
I think maybe on the member stream we can talk about how to get through this on an emotional level. But I haven't even seen everything, but I've seen enough of the information on, I'm sure a lot of you have seen it on social media, about a lot of executive orders that have gone through. And I talked to Jan at length the other night about the gender issue, which is something in the Neogenian system. And it's not simply gender. It's the idea of personhood and identity in general.
Mm-hmm.
Which kind of goes back to what I was talking about, like when the Neogenian system talks about individuality, and then when the current society and how society is shaped right now defines individual, because I think a society in a lot of sense would define individuals as like selfish, like it's you're living in a selfish fantasy if you think you're a gender that you're not and stuff, whereas in the Neogenian system we're like, wait a minute, this person's actually understanding themselves in a deeper sense than what's out on the surface. So we would be very much in support of that. But I think when it comes to things like gender issues, racial issues, and stuff like that, at least what I've learned in the last few years is like you can't really fight for one without fighting for the other. And it turns into this thing where like we're just fighting for everyone in general. We are. I mean, and it's not just gender. It's the attacks on minorities. That was another whole bunch of executive orders taking it, and we knew this was coming. Anybody who's watched for a while knew that the attacks on DEI, but even removing the equal employment opportunity, I think, the one from 1965, right, which is just, again, incredible. It's just wiped out, gone, and it's already having repercussions out there. Well, yeah, the current administration has made it so discrimination is perfectly acceptable again, and I think people will be inadvertently get into it because you're going to have an employer who's isn't concerned about that, but they're going to be afraid to hire any minority and be accused of just simply hiring DEI. So it's like it's going to force people who wouldn't otherwise be prejudiced or discriminatory like that to start building that inside their head.
And they've suspended. And
not only, I was going to say, not only are there attacks on people, there's also attacks on systems that benefit people, like the healthcare system and the education system. Those things, when care are given to those, they greatly benefit people. And your what am I trying to say? Your upbringing. That's the word I was looking for.
I mean, obviously the gender issue is huge. The attack on women. Now it's going to be really bad, especially because I just saw, I think it was Vance, I'm not sure, but speak about wanting more babies and it's not.
Like banning birth control or something.
Oh
like
yeah.
that.
Yeah. But also
I
like
think contraceptive has been on their
it's
target
it's
list for a
happening.
long time.
Yeah, that a full personhood happens at conception, but of course the racism is another area, as you know, as I just mentioned, and I was going to continue and say, not only have they taken out so many programs that were helping in that area, but they actually suspended and canceled all, I think, civil rights suits. So that you can't even, you have no recourse after that. I don't think that there's any recourse.
It's seriously disturbing how seemingly easy it is for them to rewrite reality as we're seeing it. They're really good at gaslighting. And it's baffling to me, honestly. Rewriting history, rewriting reality as we know it, and telling us to our faces, you're not seeing what you actually saw. You know, like for example, with Elon Musk's, I'll go into briefly his gesture recently, and then just the media's over explanation of, oh, that's not exactly what he did, and it's like that's just like a tiny thing, but it's just all constantly trying to tell you what their idea of reality is. It's really scary, and it's very easy for them to do. And I think this is what's so important about the Neogenian system, is that part where it really drives into you've got to know yourself at such a deep fundamental level. You got to find reason, instill reason and rationality within yourself so that you can cut through this bull crap.
And not only going back to what you just said about the gesture and how they explained it away as nothing, but at the same time, how it emboldened really right-wing hate groups to come out and say, oh, you know, they recognized it for what it was and understood that it was in support of them. And I have yet to see anybody coming out and condemning those groups, saying, no, we're not any part of that, because they...
A lot of the German journalists and reporters are, and just German people in general are like, we went through this.
Yeah.
This is not good. That wasn't fun. What are you doing? What are you doing?
Yeah.
Oh my God, what are you doing? Like,
but meanwhile, Musk is backing extreme right. I know you're nodding, Philip, because you know. I don't know the names of the groups, but in Germany, he's the government.
And they've called him out for it.
Yeah. And, you know, so it's hard to look at what he did and say, oh, that was just a mistake or something. He knows exactly what he's doing. And so we have a lot, basically, we have a lot on our plate right now.
Yeah,
as a group,
all the systems in power at the moment are direct antithesis to what we stand for.
I think that, and Lee just said they apparently really want to get rid of the Constitution. I think before, Ryan, I see you. Thank you so much for your super chat. I'm going to read it in a second. But I think one of the things that the administration is going for is to create a lot of chaos and outrage and
pitting people against people.
Yes, and have
different idealisms.
At the same time that they put through other things to keep us fighting about all this stuff up here while they're doing other things. And we're going to have to count on people who are knowledgeable and actually hunting things down to report accurately on other areas that we may not be aware of.
Yeah. Independent journalism is so important.
Make sure your sources are good.
Extremely.
Absolutely, make sure your sources are good, because
support individual journalists right now.
Yeah. So I want to read what Ryan, thank you so much. Ryan said, the underlying problem with this world is that life is built on a pile of bones. You have to be eat or be eaten. Animals call it survival. Humans call it business. You know, it doesn't have to be this way for us, That's the problem, is that we are stuck. Well, we are moving out of the survival phase, but it is a rough move to get to where we are now, where we're heading. Once people realize that we do not have to live in this survival mode, and that we can create a world, excuse me, you guys, where we focus on thriving, but of course it requires that neogenesis phase, and that is so important. That's the raising of your consciousness, get preparing for that
paradigm shift is.
Yeah. And we keep, I know Pook says, I am outraged by the lack of action. It gets frustrating. That's the difficult thing is, how dare they hold us back, Lee says. And it's true. The difficult sort of cycle is going from, I hate this and I want to change it, but you want to run out and like do things, but you can't. And you can go through, the proper channels and vote for, definitely do those things. Don't sit around saying, oh, it's useless to partake in the system. But what we need to start doing is getting people involved who have gotten to that point. And
Elise left a really good comment about that earlier, saying, working in your community and making inroads to introduce higher consciousness and ideas of unity is important.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So remember that that as a Neogenian, you are out there. You are out there living this understanding, and in everything you do, in everything you talk about, you don't have to be creating, videos, although it's fabulous if you do that, whatever you do to spread information, but even just in talking to people, but do the thing where you speak up. Of course, always be safe, but when you see things that are just wrong, when you see racism and homophobia and misogyny, call that out and speak up for people, and then also reward and people who are promoting the better society. And in fact, I just saw a list on Instagram. Somebody went through somebody researched this, all the companies that were major, not just a little bit, or supported both sides, because a lot of industries companies do that, where they donate to both sides. But the ones who really support the current administration and don't support them, support the other ones.
It's non-violent resistance, I think, is a good thing to get into. When the world goes crazy, I think we all naturally just kind of have that thing in us that's like, I want to grab the torch and pitchfork and go. Yeah. But that's such an emotional just reaction. It's a very reactionary thing to do. So you got to hone that anger and that distress in. You got to turn it into righteous, reasonable anger. Yeah. And go out there and do nonviolent resistance and civil disobedience through demonstrations such as boycotting certain companies. And that's the options are endless. It's so completely untrue that violent resistance is the only way to make change. Mm-hmm. Anybody who says that is lacking innovation, and that doesn't have any place in our system.
Yeah.
Also, going back to what Susan said, I think it's also important to call out intolerance when you see it. I know you were talking about the homophobia and xenophobia, and we're going to see a lot of that in the next 4 years. So,
yes.
It's important to call that stuff out and be a voice. I can't remember who the quote is by, but somebody said that times have not become more violent, they've just become more televised. Yeah. I think that counts for all forms of intolerance. Yeah. Think about all of the awful intolerance that occurred before we saw it on social media. And so it's important to highlight that that stuff is always happening out there, and we have to spread awareness of it and
Yeah.
be intolerant of that intolerance,
Yeah.
all of the racism
Yeah.
and all of that stuff.
We are going to start seeing, I mean, Meta just made it possible to call trans people mentally ill. They'll probably increase that to just anybody LGBTQ. I know bad things are coming. Women, they're going to start moving really against women, and absolutely 100% Black people of color are
the people getting deported right now is extremely concerning.
Mm-hmm.
There's military presence right now.
That
people
too
are getting captured, taken,
that
deported
too.
Right now.
But
and put in encampments and all that stuff.
Yeah, it's really all these aspects, because this is a backlash and it's been for a long time. This is not something that just happened, when during the time.
I'm surprised we haven't gotten here sooner.
No, I mean, Project 2025 has been in the works way before Trump came around.
It used to be Project 2016 or something. I think they've changed their names.
Oh, but they were hidden. They only just came out into the public. They have been working behind the scenes for a long, long time, and
thanks to the gay furries, I think that were the hackers that uncovered Project 2025.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah,
well,
straight up.
They don't like that. They don't like that blacks have any Black people have any kind of power. They don't want to see.
I don't even think they consider them people. Honestly.
They don't want to see them succeed. Women, they want back at home. They want
the kitchen.
Yep, at home. Yeah, wearing a dress and
pregnant.
Mm-hmm. And I know that sounds like extreme, that vision, but believe me, it's there. And
when you read Project 2025, that is their vision.
You can see it, and also they LGBTQ, they want them invisible. Absolutely
Project
invisible.
2025 described LGBTQ people as pornography. They didn't even get described. We didn't even get described as people. We're just pornography.
Yeah. So, we're at the, they took the Handmaid's Tale notes. We're at the 10. I know it's in nano, and it's scary and it's depressing. I think as a community, we have to stick together for hope and maintaining our sanity.
Self-care.
Yeah, we'll talk more about that in the member stream, I think. But I recommend show it once more. Take a look at Teleocracy. It is a beacon of hope. It's uplifting in terms of being able to see what we can have, what we should have, what we are working toward. And I think on that note, I think we can leave it there. This has not been one of our super fun streams because it's really heavy material, but there's no escape from it. So
no.
So Jan, I know that you have to go and you can't come to our members stream. Mm-hmm. So do you want to take some time here to make an announcement about, I know you're having some changes in your schedule and what you're going to be doing. Do you?
Yeah, so I'll just say briefly, and I am planning on posting a video tomorrow on it on my YouTube. So I'm taking a bit of a sabbatical from public live streaming. I'm still going to be doing streams for members, not as frequently as the public live streams. But basically the reason for doing that is typically what I do is I'll find some articles online of what's going on in the world, and we'll have a discussion about it on my live streams. But due to the circumstances recently, It's really affecting me personally on a personal level, because at this point it's like there's so much material to just pull up and rant and rave about and just say, wow, look at this thing that's happening in the world. It sucks. Don't you think it sucks? Yeah, it really sucks. What do we do? So I'm going to take a step back. I'm going to be focusing on my schooling for the next few months. Like I said, I'll still be active in some way, shape, or form for members and things like that. But I'm trying to get away from just reading articles, talking about how much the world sucks, taking a sort of sabbatical away to educate myself better and come back and make the channel more education focused rather than
cool.
doom focused.
I love that. I think that's wonderful. I'm glad that you mentioned to me the other night when we were talking. And I know you'll obviously be in touch with all of your supporters through your own channel, but it's good that you were also able to come tonight and talk to people as well. I really appreciate it. I know when we were just talking the other day, and you gave such good insight from, what you're studying. And I thought this would be a really good opportunity to have you on. And while you're on sabbatical, we hope that you'll come back maybe when you feel like,
oh yeah, totally.
When you feel like being on, you'll be able to pop in.
This is just for the next few months. Summer's gonna be ripping and roaring. But thank you so much for having me guest today. I really appreciate it, because these topics are difficult, but they're extremely important.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you for joining us.
And we will be talking more about Teleocracy in our next live stream, probably, unless something comes up. That will be me and Philip. And I just wanted to, I think we're going to say goodbye and move on to the members, but I just wanted to say something to, I think it was Pooks who said, this material is so important to get out there. And if you don't have the money to buy the book, and I know Philip gave you some resources for that, but I also want to point out that we are here. The Oculus is here for that. And please ask questions. Let us know if there's something in particular that you want information on, and we can talk about it. We can focus on it in one of the live streams on this, because the material is very important. And remember that you can get the Kindle version for $10, which is less. Okay, thank you everybody, and good night. This was wonderful to have you, and we will see you in the members after this, or hopefully
tomorrow for Nexus.
Oh, tomorrow for Nexus, but I mean for the Oculus, we like to be able to go live twice a month, but life has been very strange for both of us lately. So we do our best. If we can do it in a few weeks, otherwise the end of the month, as always. And we'll say goodnight, and we'll see you in the members, hopefully in a few minutes. Bye, everybody.
Thanks for joining, everybody.
Bye.